Part 31. Planting trees for all, 3 consecutive SSS-level talents at the beginning. Author, Immortal. Chapter 301. Ding. You got spiritual fruit X1. Ding. You got sword god template fruit X1. Ding. You have obtained Holy Spirit growth fruit X1. Ding. You have obtained the best void returning fruit X1. After nearly 10 days of exploration in the Black Sea. Unknowingly, the next production period of the fruit of the sacred tree has also arrived. Lu Shu looked up. I saw 4 fruits growing on the sacred tree. In that fruit, which is as blue and transparent as the sky, is like a spiritual ocean. It is a spiritual fruit. The sword god template fruit looks like a sword and has an extremely unique appearance. I've seen a lot of Holy Spirit growth fruits and top-grade void return fruits, but there's nothing special about them. Open the sacred tree panel, and new products have appeared on it. Products: Devil fruit, Blood succession limit fruit, Ultimate void return fruit, Holy Spirit growth fruit. Production cycle: 10 days, 15,000/1500, if it is according to the normal progress. Lu Shu was afraid that it would take 10 more days to wait before he could get these products in his hands. However, after this exploration of the Black Sea, Lu Shu obtained many treasures from the Sea Monster King. Open the 10 legendary treasure chests inside. Ding. You have obtained the best life essence X10. Do you want to use it? Yes. As several beeps sounded, Lu Shu's sacred tree instantly gained 30,000 growth points. At the same time, the production time was also shortened by 10 days. It just so happens that the next product is mature. Ding. You got Devil fruit X1. Ding. You have obtained the Blood succession limit fruit X1. Ding. You have obtained the best void returning fruit X1. Ding. You have obtained Holy Spirit growth fruit X1. Bury all the products in the soil. 8 subspecies spiritual trees rose from the ground in an instant. With the blessing of 100-fold increase in speed, the growth speed of these fruits is extremely astonishing. Visible to the naked eye, one can see the spiritual tree growing from a sapling into a strong tree. After waiting for a long time, finally, all fruit products have grown. Lu Shu opened the sacred tree panel again. Sacred tree. Stage: Intermediate sacred tree. Sunshine, 2010/day, 20.1x100. Aura, 1540/day, 15.4x100. Subspecies spiritual tree remaining capacity, 7, total 15. Products: Life fruit, Holy Spirit growth fruit. Production cycle: 10 days, 15,000/1500. Growth points: 405,200, 41.4x100 equals 6640/day. Next stage: Advanced Holy Tree, 500000 growth points. The fruit of life. Lu Shu's expression moved slightly. Before he knew it, the next life fruit was coming. Now, Lu Shu had a lot of superpower fruits piled up in his hands. At this time, Anna suddenly came to the subspecies spirit the position of the tree. As her hands gently brushed, among them, spiritual fruit evolved and became spiritual ocean fruit. However, other superpower fruits have not undergone many changes. Maybe it's because of the characteristics of the fruit. The sword god template fruit is a template, somewhat similar to a profession, so it cannot evolve. Devil fruits and blood succession limit fruits are restricted fruits and cannot evolve. As for the ultimate void returning fruit and the Holy Spirit growth fruit, they have basically reached the peak of the corresponding fruits, so they cannot evolve. After learning this, Lu Shu did not feel dissatisfied. This shows that the grade of his sacred tree is high enough and the fruits it produces are the best. This should be a good thing. Next, Lu Shu will focus on spiritual ocean fruit. Spiritual ocean fruit, it is of certain help to the spiritual power below SSS level. After swallowing it, you can expand your spiritual ocean and gain higher spiritual power. My mental power happens to be at SS level, just one step away from SSS level. Lu Shu's mind moved slightly, and he realized that spirit ocean fruit had a big effect on him. Swallow one quickly and see the effect. With a thought in his mind, a spirit ocean fruit immediately appeared in Lu Shu's hand, and he bit it gently. The moment the juice flows on the tip of the tongue, it is like a pearl passing through silk. Its delicious fragrance is irresistible. It is a pure and incomparable gift from nature. Anyone who swallows it can enjoy it. I felt my mind swaying for a while, and my spiritual thoughts floated into the universe, as if I had arrived at the ancient and mysterious heavenly palace. Even though Lu Shu's mental power has already reached the SS level, the actual effect of swallowing the spirit ocean fruit is not that great, but he can still feel the magical effect of this fruit. What a good thing! Lu Shu took a long breath and swallowed the spirit ocean fruit. He only felt that his whole person's spirituality seemed to have been sublimated. This was a quite extreme experience, surpassing some ordinary pleasures. It was simply unusable. Words to describe it? Only those who have experienced it personally can know what it feels like. Not enough. Lu Shu noticed that with his SS level spiritual power, the boundary of the spiritual ocean expanded a little toward the outermost position, but it had not yet reached the SSS level realm. He must get a few more. Continue to swallow. 1, 2, 3. Finally, when he swallowed the 10th fruit, Lu Shu suddenly felt shocked. The spiritual ocean suddenly began to rise. The turbulent sea water was roaming freely in the Wangyang Sea, which belongs to the spiritual world. At that moment, there was lightning and thunder. The majestic spiritual power gathered into hundreds of rivers and condensed at the position of Lu Shu's spiritual thoughts. With just a little perception, you can realize that it is an endless ocean, and every drop of seawater represents spiritual power. When the spiritual power turns into the ocean, it will become an unstoppable supreme spiritual power. At this moment, Lu Shu's mental power finally completed his sublimation, crossing from SS level to SSS level, transcending the realm of mortals. Planting trees for all, 3 consecutive SSS level talents at the beginning. Author, Immortal. Chapter 302. SSS level mental power. Lu Shu closed his eyes and felt that his mental power had reached an extremely powerful state. Using the realm of reincarnation. Now, even the boss of a super nightmare level copy may not be able to withstand Lu Shu's mental attack. Not to mention ordinary mobs. Only undead like Old Man Su can be immune to Lu Shu's attacks. However, the number of undead is very rare. Although Old Man Su's abilities look similar to those of the lowest zombies, but according to the description, his life experience can be said to have run through the most significant events in the Grey World. Including the Eternal Emperor. Including that catastrophe. Including the secret of the Endless Sea. My mental power has finally reached the SSS level. Lu Shu felt that his strength had been greatly improved, and he took a long breath. But the SSS level was not the end. After the breakthrough, Lu Shu felt that his spiritual ocean had turned into an endless ocean of Wangyang. It seems to be a world of its own. Just like a small world in the body. However, at the current stage, the spiritual ocean is only the sea, and does not accommodate all things in the world. Therefore, there is still a lot of room for improvement above SSS level mental power. If corresponding to the semi-saint and holy levels, there may be a higher realm above the holy level, perhaps a god, but gods may not be the pinnacle in the Grey World. Only by continuing to break through can we know the way forward. Where is the limit? However, this staged promotion also made Lu Shu feel extremely happy. He set his sights on several other fruits. Sword God Template Fruit. Lu Shu swallowed the Sword God Template Fruit without saying a word. What kind of superpower fruit is this? Only after eating it will you know whether it is useful or not. At this moment, Lu Shu suddenly felt as if there was an extra small sword in his body. Sword soul. Lu Shu felt a little surprised. The sword soul was born in his own little world. It turned into a hazy ball of light and floated above the world tree. Something surprising happened. The world tree actually turned itself into a hazy ball of light. Several threads of the origin of the avenue were separated from Lu Shu's world and gave birth to the sword soul. However, the sword soul also gave birth to several threads of different avenues and injected them into the world tree. It was like complementing each other. At this moment, Lu Shu felt that there was an extremely powerful sword intent in his body. What a powerful sword spirit! Lu Shu couldn't help but exclaimed. The sword soul had not yet been fully gestated, but he had already mastered an extremely powerful sword intention. At the same time, after swallowing the sword god template fruit, Lu Shu also discovered that there is a lot more knowledge about Kendo in my mind. The way of the sword is divided into 7 realms: sword intention, sword heart, the unity of man and sword, the realm of heaven and man, the formless void, and the origin of the great road. My sword soul has not yet been fully born, but I have already comprehended the most powerful sword intention in the world. If I reach the state of formless space behind, I can even integrate the sword into everything in the world, transform it into the most powerful sword domain, and become my additional domain. If I can master 3 different fields, my strength will truly reach the holy level. Lu Shu felt the changes in his body, and he couldn't help but feel a boiling feeling in his heart. This is a power that is stronger than supernatural powers and goes straight to the source. The powers gained by swallowing the fruit with other sacred tree masters are not at the same level at all. At present, Lu Shu has mastered the realm of reincarnation, and when the sword soul is completely conceived, it will not take long to realize the realm of formless space and give birth to the sword realm. The remaining there is still 1 field left to reach the holy level. The seemingly far-off goal has now reached half of the progress without realizing it. Lu Shu could not help but sigh, his sacred tree is really too strong. At this moment, a chat box popped up in front of you. Is it peace of mind? Lu Shu looked at the ID clearly and found that it was a message sent by Anil, a member of the guild. He quickly opened it to check. Anil: I have arrived at the location of the Thunder Emperor's inheritance, what should I do next? President: So fast. Anil: I controlled a team of divine tree masters, and some of them arrived at the tower inherited by the Thunder Emperor, so I used them as a bridge to teleport there. The tree lover: Yeah, I understand. Anil's superpower is similar to that of a witch and Gudal. But it can completely control the mind of the sacred tree master. Even their system panel can be used. Although he swallowed the shadow assassin fruit and the teleportation power fruit, Anil still felt that the speed across the coordinates was too slow. Coincidentally, I met a member of the Divine Tree Master Guild on the way. They had other members arriving at the Tower of Heritage, so they controlled their minds, communicated with the guild, and teleported there directly. I have to say, this little girl is quite smart. Strength is not as simple as it seems. Ding. Anil sent a video connection. Lu Shu opened it and took a look. In the picture, many sacred tree masters gathered outside the Tower of Heritage. However, until now, no one has been able to completely clear the inheritance of the Thunder Emperor. At present, the one with the best results turned out to be Sakyamuni. Last time, the ancient Buddha guild suffered a defeat in the 20-man island battle. That pretentious bald donkey said he wanted to win the island battle, but in the end there was no news, and no one from the ancient Buddha guild came out to say anything. What was the result? All I can say is that I understand everything. After this lesson, the ancient Buddha guild must eat the Tower of Heritage in order to maintain its reputation again. Therefore, this time Shakya took action personally and obtained 5 million points. The second place was Dark Knight, but it only had 2 million points. I have to say, the Dark Knight Alliance is in an extremely bad mood this time. Their president personally took action, but was beaten twice as many points by Bald Donkey, and became the laughing stock in the Divine Tree Master Forum. Enya was so angry that he sent the next message. A bunch of sour dogs, no matter what, they have the ability to break my second place and knock me off the rankings. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Planting trees for all, 3 consecutive SSS-level talents at the beginning. Author, Immortal. Chapter 303. Recently, the Dark Knight Alliance has begun to jump up again. However, the reputation they had left in the Divine Tree world was extremely stinky. This wave of consequences led to personal ridicule. Not only did he lose all his strength, but it also attracted cynicism from people from all walks of life. The chat box suddenly became lively. World public screen. Ha ha ha, is this the Dark Knight Alliance? It is also known as the #1 Guild of Divine Tree Masters. Why is it that the Bald Donkey has doubled its points in this ranking list? Anxious. And yet is in a hurry. Shensha game has you guys as a cancer, it's really a shame. Are these people from the Dark Knight Alliance like crazy dogs? This kind of guild encounter backlash sooner or later if it relies on killing other sacred tree masters to strengthen itself. Laughing to death, as far as I know, many big guys have not actually gone to the Tower of Heritage. This Dark Knight is starting to dance. The lessons learned from the last reincarnation abyss were too great. No matter what happens in the grey world now, no one is willing to disturb this muddy water. So, what's the value of Dark Knight's second place? Are the people from Fenjiun Guild gone? Did the people from Wu Pavilion take action? The group of people from Xin Chen Pavilion didn't go either, right? If we wait until these big guys arrive, and yes, ranking will drop. Insiders are here to reveal that other big guys are ready to take action, including Mu Pavilion. Damn it, they're all here. The last time I went to the abyss of reincarnation, I didn't get any benefits and persuaded many sacred tree masters to retreat. However, this time it was actually beneficial, so it probably attracted a lot of people. When the big guys take action, I hope to still see Dark Knight on the list. That is, even a Bald Donkey can't be beaten. What are you pretending to be in this Dark Knight? Everyone is there in the chat box. People from all walks of life came forward one after another, including ghosts and ghosts. Some people who were passing by saw the Dark Knight Alliance's reputation as such, so of course they wanted to step on it. After all, who would like a guild that developed by killing Sanchin tree masters? The other part has no good intentions and just wants to watch the fire from the other side and make the situation even more chaotic. They are eager for a fight between the two giants of the Dark Knight Alliance and the Ancient Buddha Guild so that they can reap the benefits. Of course, Enya and Sakyamuni knew this very well. Apart from Enya himself posting a taunt, there was no movement from the Ancient Buddha Guild. Anil briefly discussed these situations with Lushu. However, she frowned slightly and told Lushu that she had made a bad discovery recently. Anil: I found some sacred tree masters near the Tower of Heritage. They would wait for the sacred tree masters in the tower to come out, and then intercept and kill them. Especially the sacred tree masters with higher points, once it is discovered that they have no background power, and obtain higher points, they will mobilize the power of the entire guild to first trap the opponent in a deadlock, and then demand the handover of all gains obtained in the Tower of Heritage. Lushu frowned. It is indeed possible that such a group of people will appear. They were targeting some sacred tree masters who did not have a guild. Specially pick soft persimmons. Because they have specialized organizations and guilds, they are not afraid of fewer people if they have more people, but their strength is far behind the real big guilds, so they engage in such shameful things. It was actually mentioned in the forum. Recently, many sacred tree masters have encountered this kind of gangster behavior. If the other party just takes away the finances, that would be considered a good thing, but sometimes after handing over the harvest from the Tower of Heritage, their lives are not saved and they are killed directly. This forces some sacred tree masters to cooperate with some major guilds before entering the Tower of Heritage, giving up their personal interests, which is referred to as protection fees. The Great Guild is naturally happy to see this situation. Every crop is full of leaks. In fact, some big guilds are committing such acts of robbery while collecting protection fees, with a righteous and awe-inspiring appearance, which is simply disgusting. Lu Shu pondered for a moment, and then said, "I know." Anil asked, "Then what should I do next?" Lu Shu said, "You should eat all these fruits first." Anil's expression immediately shocked. "Coming. It's the fruit of the tree taker again." After swallowing these fruits last time, Anil's strength has increased a lot, especially the dark night fruit, which enhanced her speed and concealment capabilities. Therefore, when we came to this chaotic place, Anil was hidden in the night and shadows. Coupled with the power of puppetry, it was difficult for others to discover him. It is safe, but if you really enter the Tower of Heritage, after the strategy is completed, the exit will be fixed and it will be easy to be intercepted by others. Even if he possesses the Dark Night fruit, he may not be able to successfully escape from the well-organized attacks of these sacred tree master guilds. After all, Anil's current superpower is not powerful enough. She noticed that what Lu Shu said was not one, but several. She couldn't help but be a little surprised. "I don't know what fruit I will give away next." Actually, Anil was a little disappointed. If there were several fruits, maybe they were all A-level superpowers, right? If you want to successfully capture the Tower of Heritage, you must either obtain S-level abilities, or obtain more A-level abilities, and cooperate with each other to produce an effect of 1 add 1 greater than 2. But what Anil wanted more was S-level powers. Lu Shu was talking about several kinds of fruits, which would definitely not be that powerful. Thinking about it, it's actually quite normal. If it were really an S-level fruit, such an item would be too precious. I haven't done anything in the guild. How could there be any reason to get an S-level superpower fruit for no reason? The trading panel opens. In front of Anil's eyes, several fruits suddenly appeared. Spiritual Ocean Fruit. Sword God Template Fruit. Underworld Fruit. When Anil saw the introduction, her delicate body trembled, and her eyes were filled with incredible color. It turns out, all of them. Super S-class fruit. Anil was completely shocked. In his dashboard, the levels marked were all the same S, extraordinarily bright. Among them, the Huanquan fruit is still an SS-level fruit. Isn't this too exaggerated? Anil even had the urge to slap himself in the face to test whether he was dreaming. Planting trees for all, 3 consecutive SSS-level talents at the beginning. Author, Immortal. Chapter 304. The first one, the Spiritual Ocean Fruit. An LE thought, and the fruit as blue as the sky suddenly appeared in her hand. Taking a deep breath. I can smell an indescribable fragrance permeating the fruit, just like the first blue flower blooming in spring. The purest fragrance hits my nose, making Anil's whole mind feel as if get drunk in the blooming spring and ripple in the ocean of joy. Smell good. Anil couldn't help but exclaimed in her heart. What kind of fruit is this? Why does it smell so fragrant? Wait. No wonder Mr. Lush's cooking skills are so high. It turns out that the fruit is inherently delicious. If you are not good at cooking, what else can you eat? Just eat the fruit. I have to say that the taste of this fruit alone has a certain value in the transaction interface. Anil is not without it. I have traded supernatural fruits with other divine tree masters, but this is the first time I have seen a fruit that smells so fragrant. I don't know what it tastes like after eating it. I found a quiet place, sat down peacefully, and adjusted my breath. It was the first time I ate such a delicious fruit. No, it should be said that I swallowed an S-level superpower fruit. I must use the best state to taste its taste and the abilities it brings. This step is actually meaningful. Obtaining powers and learning how to use powers are actually two different stages. Even if you have the same superpower, if it is used by different divine tree masters, it may be completely different. For example, Fengyun Guild is the best example. The use of shared powers by other divine tree masters is always not as smooth as the owner of the power fruit itself. Tasting the taste of the fruit and how much of it can be awakened at the moment of awakening the power will also have an impact on subsequent abilities. Anil swallowed the superpower fruit. The next second, her pupils shrank violently, and her whole body seemed to be trembling. It is a feeling that cannot be described in words, like an ocean that nourishes life, completely wrapping up the world where the soul is, and nurturing the whole body in a space built by the sea of spirituality. Anil discovered that his mental power was growing crazily. She was completely shocked. Originally, Anil thought that his mental power was already very high in the sacred tree game. At least, among the billions of people, there are still only a few sacred tree masters who can reach S-level spiritual power. It can be compared with the group of monsters on the ranking list. However, Anil never imagined that just a fruit would cause the spiritual ocean he had condensed to undergo a qualitative leap and transformation. The edge of the spiritual ocean began to expand crazily, and every drop of sea water gathered into a wave, setting off waves crazily in this special world. My spiritual power. It actually reached SS level. No, that's not right, mental power is still growing slowly and has not reached its limit. Anil felt the changes in his spiritual ocean, his expression was full of shock, and he couldn't believe that this was the change that a fruit could bring to him. It's just a fruit. As for fruits that enhance spiritual power, in fact, in the God tree game, there are many fruits besides Lushu. This fruit is called the attribute enhancing fruit. As long as you swallow it, you can increase your basic attributes. However, this kind of fruit has a big disadvantage, that is, after swallowing one fruit, swallowing a second fruit will have basically no effect. Moreover, among the attribute enhancing fruits, especially the spiritual power enhancing fruit, you need to swallow a lot of them to see the effect, otherwise it will be like drizzle. In the early days of the divine tree game, these attribute enhancing fruits could be exchanged for some bargains when no one had any fruits. But later on, more and more divine tree masters were trading them, and everyone discovered it. Due to the drawbacks of attribute enhancing fruits, people are gradually becoming less willing to trade such fruits. The attribute improvement fruit is also called the IQ test fruit by some arrogant people. To put it simply, whoever changes will be stupid. If a fruit can increase the spiritual power of a divine tree master from a level to S level, then this kind of fruit will definitely be snapped up by all kinds of sacred tree masters. All that is needed to have supernatural powers is mental power. Some superpowers have very strong potential, but they cannot play their due role. It is precisely because the spiritual power of the divine tree master is too weak that the power of the superpower fruit cannot be fully exerted. If a fruit could transform the spirit of the divine tree master to S level, it would be unimaginable how crazy such a fruit would be. Anil felt that it was simply unimaginable. The boss of Lushu actually has a fruit of this level. Anil took a deep breath. She has realized how terrifying Lushu is. Such a fruit can increase her mental power from S level to SS level, so how powerful is his own mental power? What about horror? SS plus? Even, the legendary SSS level. Doesn't that mean we have reached the pinnacle of the divine tree master? While others are still racking their brains to break through to S level, has Lushu boss already broken through to SSS level and reached the pinnacle position? Is this gap too big? Anil suddenly felt that he was not forced to join the Xiao organization. If I had known that this organization was so awesome, why would I have hesitated at the beginning? I would have wanted to join on my knees. However, these are not all the fruits Lu Shu gave himself. There were 2 more fruits that were not swallowed. I don't know what effect the next fruit will have. Anil took several deep breaths in succession before slowly calming down. There was no way, the fruit Lu Shu gave her was so powerful that it completely exceeded her expectations. Therefore, it's hard not to look forward to the fruit you'll swallow next. But Anil knows that he needs to be content. Even if the next superpower fruit may not be that powerful, however, being able to swallow the spirit ocean fruit, the harvest is terrifying enough. Next one. Sword God Template Fruit. Planting trees for all, 3 consecutive SSS-level talents at the beginning. Author, Immortal. Chapter 305. The next second. Anil swallowed the Sword God Template Fruit. Countless kendo knowledge suddenly appeared in my mind. Is this the Sword God Template? A glimmer of light shone in Anil's eyes. If he can get another good sword, Anil can be sure that he will be able to unleash a fighting ability that is no less than an S-level Divine Tree Master. The Sword God Template Fruit actually has so many realms. At present, I have only understood the stage of Sword Intention, but I already have S-level combat ability. If I realize the highest realm, what terrible abilities will I gain? Anil took a deep breath and looked at the fruit with eyes full of shock. Originally, she was still thinking about what kind of powers this fruit had. Unexpectedly, the template of the sword god was directly brought over. The starting point is S-level. In the future, if you go through some practice and realize a higher realm, how can you get it? The starting point is such a high level, and it also has the attribute of growth. Although it is marked as an SS-level superpower fruit, but Anil can be sure that if this kind of fruit is thrown on the market, I'm afraid it can be exchanged for SSS-level fruits. No. Right now, there are no SSS-level superpower fruits in the entire Sacred Tree game. If this fruit is placed in the transaction interface, it will definitely cause countless Sacred Tree Masters to go crazy. There is absolutely no fruit that can compare with the Sword God Template fruit presented by Lu Shu. Some of the realms inside, and the hidden growth potential is completely beyond the scope of knowledge of ordinary Sacred Tree Masters. And, such a precious fruit, the tree boss actually gave it away as soon as he said it. The kind of person who doesn't even frown. Give it to yourself. Such a precious fruit is just to let her obtain the inheritance of the Thunder Emperor. No, in other words, even if she can get the final reward of the Tower of Inheritance, its value may not be comparable to the Sword God Template fruit. What does it mean? This can only be said that in the eyes of the tree-loving boss, even SSS-level fruits are just items that can be given away casually. They are a little more precious at most, but they are definitely not the only ones. Thinking of this, Anil's breathing became a little heavier. The tree-lugging boss can even produce SSS-level superpower fruits, so what is his upper limit? No. Even the Sword God Template fruit needs a certain amount of it takes time to practice to reach the SSS level. But what is certain is that the current strength of the Tree Master is definitely terrifying, and cannot be compared to other Sacred Tree Masters. There is one more fruit left. Actually, Anil is satisfied enough after swallowing the Spirit Ocean fruit and Sword God Template fruit. However, there is a third power fruit that has not been taken yet. If so, the first fruit has brought peace and happiness to the paradise of happiness, so this third fruit is simply going to become the rhythm of the Emperor of Heaven. The happiness is infinitely superimposed. Huanquan fruit. When Anil saw the name, he was a little curious about what kind of abilities this fruit had. The next second, the moment she swallowed the underworld fruit, behind her, endless souls raged in a raging storm, as if there was an army from the river Styx, making a roar that shook the world. That underworld with endless death energy, carrying tens of millions of dead souls, let out a terrible wail. Its momentum alone was enough to frighten any S-level divine tree master. However, Anil was also surprised to find that this fruit could give the divine tree master a chance to resurrect, and as long as the spiritual power was stronger, the controlled soul could become stronger, and even turn into a physical entity, with incredible abilities. This is simply the most powerful fruit I have ever seen. Anil couldn't help but sigh. Compared to the sword god template fruit, although the yellow spring fruit's final growth potential is not that strong, it is in harmony with the spirit ocean fruit swallowed earlier. The stronger the mental power, the stronger the underworld fruit can emit, and it also has the ability to resurrect. This is simply the peak of both physical and mental systems, with no shortcomings at all. The few fruits that Mr. Lusha gave me casually have already made me a completely different person. So how strong should he be? Anil felt that his little mind could not imagine Lushu's true strength at all. He could only sigh with conviction, he deserves to be number one on the 10,000 years list. There really is something. In the Divine Tree game, there are also many Shaoshen Tree Master posted a post, wondering why Lushu has been able to dominate the list for a long time. There are many conjectures. However, Anil discovered the truth today, and it couldn't be simpler. Lushu is too strong, it's even stronger than everyone's imagination, exceeding the upper limit that existing sacred tree masters can achieve. Therefore, he is the only one on the list, and even if he doesn't think of a way, he is still the first on the list no matter how hard he tries. This it is the crushing caused by absolute strength. It is far beyond what other methods can make up for. Lushu's dialogue box popped up in front of him. President : in the recent period, you should first adapt to the sword god template and get a better sword by the way. There is no need to be in such a hurry to enter the Tower of Heritage. Anil arrived at her destination faster than expected. Moreover, the sword god template also requires a certain amount of time to get used to, and you also need to get a good sword. Therefore, Anil does not need to be in such a hurry to enter the Tower of Heritage. Receive. Anil replied immediately, and a plan emerged in his mind. Near the Tower of Heritage, there is a guild called Sword Pavilion. Well, it is easy to know from the name. This guild is based on the swordsman-like divine tree master. Mainly. Among them, not only swordsmen, but any divine tree master with weapon fruits can join the divine sword pavilion. Since he is a swordsman, he must have his own sword. The more powerful the swordsman, the sword she owns has a higher grade. Anil wants a sword. So, she will naturally focus on the divine sword pavilion. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Planting trees for all, 3 consecutive SSS-level talents at the beginning. Author, Immortal. Chapter 306. Grey Realm, Tower of Inheritance. A makeshift camp. Many swordsmen were stationed nearby in 2s and 3s, with a stern look in their eyes. That's right. They are all members of the Divine Sword Pavilion Guild. Although the Divine Sword Pavilion is slightly different from the Dark Knight Alliance, the Ancient Buddha Guild, etc., it has gathered together all the weapon-type sacred tree masters from all over the world. The influence among the divine tree masters is not small. Of course, such a guild is actually a free guild. You can leave or join at any time, and the distribution of members is also a mixed bag. The most obvious manifestation is the layout of the camp construction. In the outer area, any member of the Shenjian Pavilion Guild can come and go freely. They can gather teammates, trade items, and compete with each other in martial arts. Only the inner area is where the core members are. Passing through a wooden corridor and walking towards the inner courtyard of the camp, you will soon see a palace-style building. With the capital of the Divine Tree Master Guild, they can easily collect enough high-grade wood to build a magnificent temporary base in any corner of the Grey World. In addition to the decomposition skills, most of the sacred tree masters have now been collected. Therefore, when you want to change locations, you can directly decompose these buildings to obtain the same amount of materials. It is not too convenient to move. At this moment, several sacred tree masters in strange clothes, led by several swordsmen, passed through the wooden corridor outside and entered the palace in the inner area. Apart from the fact that their clothes are different from the swordsmen here, those men also have an obvious sign: they have no weapons on their bodies. Obviously, these divine tree masters are not members of the divine sword pavilion. What are they doing here? Arrive. The swordsman who led the way pushed open the palace door in front, turned to look at the visiting guests, and said seriously, "The master of the pavilion you want to see is inside. I hope you can be prepared to pay the price." Nature. The leading man did not show any politeness at all and stepped directly in. Inside the palace gate was a man wearing purple luxurious clothes, with a sword about 3 feet long tied around his waist, with blades as cold as snow on both sides. His whole body, the person standing next to the pavilion, looks like a sword suspended between heaven and earth from a distance. According to the leading swordsman, this person is the sword master of Shenjian Pavilion, Qin Feng. Unexpectedly, people from Xiaoyu sect would also come to ask for help from Shenjian Pavilion. Qin Feng turned his head and looked at the visiting people with a faint smile on his face. His eyes fell on a woman. Although Xiaoyu sect is only a small sacred tree, the Master Guild, after all, is a 1,000-person force, so it still has some reputation. Among them, these few people came to visit the Master of the Divine Sword Pavilion. Among the group, there was only one woman. And this woman was still at the front, Xiaoyu. The visitors from the sect were vaguely headed by her, and it could be seen that the identity of this woman was not that ordinary. In fact, the woman was the sect leader of the Xiaoyu sect, Xiaoyu. Xiaoyu's tone was like the hazy bright moon in the sky. When it echoed in the hall, it was like a gust of night wind blowing through everyone's ears. Our Xiaoyu sect plans to attack the Tower of Heritage in the future, but in order to prevent some unscrupulous people from plotting against us, we have come to ask for help from Shenjian Pavilion. The playful look on Qin Feng's face became more intense. The Xiaoyu sect is a guild with 1,000 people, so it is also afraid of other people's plots. This other person is not an ordinary person. Xiaoyu's tone was cold, and there was a faint sense of hostility in her eyes when she looked at Qin Feng. However, the flash of sword light in Qin Feng's eyes made Xiaoyu feel a stinging feeling. He had no choice but to look away, unable to look directly at the other person. Qin Feng smiled lightly and said, "Our Divine Sword Pavilion is a guild of hundreds of thousands of divine tree masters. Naturally, we must have the responsibility of making the world our home. However, if you want us to protect the safety of your Xiaoyu sect, you must pay a price." 73 Xiaoyu said directly. Qin Feng didn't answer, but just picked up the teacup in front of him and took a sip. Xiaoyu gritted her teeth and said 5-5. 4-6. Qin Feng said at this time. Several people around Xiaoyu were already angry. "Silly. It's just a bodyguard position. Why should they accept 60% of the resources obtained by Xiaoyu sect from the Tower of Heritage?" However, Xiaoyu, he waved his hand, stopped the people behind him, and then stood up and said, "Shenjian Pavilion, as one of the top guilds among the sacred tree masters, requires 60% of the resources, and the face can be said to be sufficient. However, if you want this 60% share, if Xiaoyu sect encounters an enemy attack, then as the master of Shenjian Pavilion, you must take action yourself. If Xiaoyu sect is still attacked and Shenjian Pavilion cannot be saved, then I will not give you any resources." It wasn't until this moment that a happy smile appeared on the corner of Qin Feng's mouth. With a wave of his right hand, a contract suddenly appeared in front of him. "Sign it. However, we must say it first. All the resources that your Xiaoyu sect obtains from the Tower of Heritage must be divided into 60% of the Divine Sword Pavilion without violating the contract. Otherwise, you will suffer the backlash of all your abilities disappearing and your mental power collapsing. Xiaoyu signed the contract without saying a word. Then, she walked directly out of the palace gate of Shenjian Pavilion. After these people left, several people opened the palace door and came to Qin Feng's side. Staring in the direction where Xiaoyu and others left, there was evil intention in his eyes. Pavilion Master, those few people possess the strategies for the Tower of Heritage. Why not just capture them and force them to find out the strategies? What kind of contract do they have to sign? Qin Feng suddenly straightened his face and said, "Our Divine Sword Pavilion is an upright Divine Tree Master Guild. How could we do such a thing?" Yes. Several other people nodded quickly. By the way, did you succeed in sending out the swordsman who intercepted the Tianyu Guild? Qin Feng closed the palace door and suddenly asked. Got it? The man immediately placed a ring in front of Qin Feng. Very good. Qin Feng nodded and smiled. Remember the contributions of those swordsmen first, and then arrange the positions of core members of Shenjian Pavilion for them after the matter is settled. A few people nodded immediately, with sneaky looks on their faces, thinking that no one knew about the conspiracy inside the Shenjian Pavilion. As everyone knew, in this hall, a shadow that blended into the night was quietly observing them in the dark. His eyes fell on Qin Feng. It was Anil. Planting trees for all, 3 consecutive SSS-level talents at the beginning. Author, Immortal. Chapter 307. That's right. When Xiaoyu and others entered the core area of Shenjian Pavilion, Anil just used the ability of the Shadow Assassin to lurk here quietly. Unexpectedly, what the Divine Sword Pavilion did was so disgusting. Anil witnessed the scene in front of him, with a rare look of disgust on his delicate face. In fact, what happened just now was already very clear. The Shenjian Pavilion went to collect protection fees under the guise of a well-known and upright family, but in fact, it secretly sent out swordsmen before going to intercept and kill the Divine Tree Masters coming out of the Tower of Heritage. They do one thing on the surface and another behind the scenes. This is why Anil hates the Divine Tree Masters Guild so much. Well, the Akatsuki organization is different. However, in fact, the Xiaoyu sect also knows this. Something happened. Not only did they know that Divine Sword Pavilion was behind the plan to intercept and kill the Divine Tree Master, but they also knew that they were going to target them. This is because Xiaoyu sect discovered the secret of the strategy for the Tower of Heritage. This secret was obtained from Mu. He knew it from the pavilion. In fact, it was Mu Tingfeng's superpower. The reason why Xiaoyu sect was able to find out the secrets of Mu Pavilion was from Lu Feng. Lu Feng had been fond of beauties all his life, and Xiaoyu sect happened to have a sacred tree. Xiao Ma Chu is in the top 10 of the beauty teacher rankings. She is also Xiaoyu's sister. Xiaoyu sent her sister, arranged a series of events, and got close to Lu Feng, thus getting in touch with the core members of Mu Pavilion, and quietly passed on the inheritance. The information about the Tower of Heritage was revealed. I thought that by getting here, the Xiaoyu sect would have a high chance of getting a huge harvest in the Tower of Heritage. But this secret was revealed by the inner ghost of the Divine Sword Pavilion in the Xiaoyu section discovered. The Xiaoyu sect sensed the danger in time and knew that Shenjian Pavilion was targeting them, but they still went to Shenjian Pavilion and handed over the protection fee. In fact, this was equivalent to self-protection. Because on the basis of signing the contract, Shenjian Pavilion was not only can the Sword Pavilion not be able to take action against the Xiaoyu sect, but it must also protect them. But the price is that 60% must be divided. This is completely an act of banditry. Unfortunately, the Xiaoyu sect is completely unable to compete with the Divine Sword Pavilion. As for asking other Sacred Tree Masters Guild's help, that's too much to think about. These big guilds who have hooked up with each other seem to be in opposition, but under such unanimous interests, they will stick together instead. How can they help a little Xiaoyu zone? Therefore, Xiaoyu could only be willing to be inferior to others and allocate 60% of the resources to Shenjian Pavilion, but in exchange for a contract that Shenjian Pavilion could not take action. Moreover, if Xiaoyu sect was intercepted and killed on the way, then Shenjian Pavilion's the master of the pavilion must help. If it cannot be saved, there is no need to give even a penny of resources. No matter how it is chosen, the Shenjian Pavilion will be the winner with the last laugh. But Xiaoyu sect is just a small one that cannot be smaller. Guild, but found out the secrets of the strategy for the Tower of Heritage, they could only seek this compromise method to gain the greatest benefits. Anil also has no sympathy for the Xiaoyu section after all, neither party is a good bird, but Qin Feng, that high-sounding, yet sinister expression behind her back really made her feel a little sick. Pavilion Master, after you sign this contract this time, aren't you afraid that people from other big guilds will take action against Xiaoyu sect? If you can't save it, wouldn't it be a violation of the contract? Suddenly, a swordsman next to him frowned and asked this question. Qin Feng smiled and shook his head, saying the Xiaoyu sect knows the secret of the Tower of Heritage strategy. Only a few of us know about it. Other big guilds, look. Not this little ant meat. Do you think that I, Qin Feng, can't defeat those comers with my 7th divine sword in the ranking of divine tree masters, Xueji? Moreover, my swordsmanship has already mastered the sword's heart. Even if that guy Shakya comes over, I will still have a way to fight him. Several swordsmen around looked at Qin Feng with extremely surprised eyes. They were full of shock. Pavilion Master, you have actually understood the heart of the sword. Congratulations to the Pavilion Master for taking your strength to the next level. Ha ha ha, given time, our Divine Sword Pavilion will probably be able to rise to the level of the first-class Divine Tree Master Guild, and be on par with the top big guys like Muyu Pavilion, Dark Knight Alliance, and Ancient Buddha Guild. And LE feels a little funny. Is Jian Xin state very strong? In the Sword God template, Jian Xin has only reached the 2nd state. Qin Feng can say such things as breaking arms with Sakyamuni. It is obvious that he is just bragging. At most, he is just an S-level Divine Tree Master. But Shakya has almost reached SS level, and his attacks are still range-based. Even if the entire Divine Tree Master of Shenjian Pavilion is sent to deal with it, with just one Shakya, I'm afraid I can block everyone. The gap in strength cannot be made up by quantity. You guys, go back and prepare quickly. In a week, we will go and withdraw the money from Xiaoyu section. Qin Feng was in a good mood, and smiled at the few cronies around him. When the time comes, all of you will have a share in the harvest. Thank you, sir. The others were grateful to Qin Feng as if they had received a great favor. Soon, they pushed open the palace door and left the Shenjian Pavilion camp. Only Qin Feng was left in the palace. Enli's eyes moved. Now is the opportunity. Although Qin Feng is very strong, Anil feels that with his current strength, even if he cannot kill the opponent, there is still no problem in taking away a handful of Xueji. Condensing the spiritual ocean. Mind control. Suddenly, a dark and profound gaze flashed in Anil's pupils. Those eyes seemed to be able to capture the soul. After swallowing the spiritual ocean fruit, the effect of Anil's own natal superpower has undergone a qualitative change compared to before. All control and distortion abilities, the stronger the mental power, the effects they exert will have earth-shaking effects. The next second, Qin Feng's body froze in place, as if he had turned into a wooden man, unable to even blink. It went so smoothly. And Ellie was a little surprised at her own strength. A slight smile appeared on her lips. Then, under her control, Qin Feng suddenly opened his system, released Xueji's binding information, and transferred this divine sword to equipment can be given to Onel directly through the transaction panel. Planting trees for all, 3 consecutive SSS-level talents at the beginning. Author, Immortal. Chapter 308. Got it? A smile appeared on Enli's face. Xueji. The 7th most famous sword in the world of divine tree masters. This sword is really a waste in Qin Feng's hands. It's better to keep it for yourself. Looking at Qin Feng, who was frozen in place, motionless like a wooden man, Onel suddenly sighed in his heart. The fruits of the spiritual ocean given to me by the president have been of great help to me. From now on, I will be a member of the Akatsuki organization and I must serve the organization well. Hey, what is the purpose of our Akatsuki organization? Onel has already developed a complete sense of belonging to the Xiao organization. Not to mention other things, just the benefits, and he has already gained so much without even asking himself to do anything. Compared to these vain, for a guild that likes to spend big time, the Akatsuki organization is simply heaven. However, since the big man Lushu is not interested in the affairs between the sacred tree masters, and he doesn't pay much attention to the opportunities in the grey world, so to speak, what is the purpose of establishing the Xiao organization? Suddenly, an idea flashed in Onel's mind, as if he thought of something, and his eyes lit up. That's right, the master of Lushu is already at such a high level, so naturally he doesn't care about becoming stronger or striving for first place. So, could it be that the purpose of establishing the Akatsuki organization is for love and peace? Ahem, it shouldn't be that cliché, but I believe that the pattern of Lushu boss is definitely not limited to this. Suddenly, Onel understood a little bit why boss Lushu wanted to give him the sword god template fruit. He probably even knew about the Shenjian pavilion, so he asked himself to get a famous sword. He also thought Xueji was so good. Is it too wasteful to put the sword in Qin Feng's hands? Or is it better to use it yourself? Qin Feng, a small character like this, naturally disdains to solve it as a tree-lugging boss, but what she did was still disgusting. Onel's eyes suddenly moved, and a bold idea came to mind. The next second, her figure flashed and left the core of Shenjian Pavilion. At this time, Qin Feng's body trembled slightly before he regained consciousness. He frowned and looked around in confusion. It felt like something had happened just now, but it didn't seem like it had happened. It seemed that time passed faster than he thought. In a blink of an eye, it seemed like not long ago. Shaking his head, Qin Feng wondered if he had been too tired recently and had hallucinations. He didn't think too much and walked straight towards the door of the palace. As he walked, Qin Feng kept talking. With a sarcastic smile. I am Xueji, who has obtained the 7th sword in the world. How could someone come to my divine sword pavilion to seek death? Dark Knight Alliance. Recently, Enya has been feeling extremely depressed. The chat box of the Divine Tree Master has recently been full of messages criticizing the Dark Knight Alliance. Enya thought that he hadn't done much recently, and asked the members of the guild to calm down and stop causing trouble. Who knew that another wave of condemnation and abuse would drown him out? After some investigation, I found out that the reason was that the sacred tree master who recently went to the Tower of Heritage to conquer the dungeon was always intercepted and killed on the way out. The visitor wore a black mask and directly shouted that he was from the Dark Knight Alliance, and then started acting like a bandit, clearly robbing all the gains that many sacred tree masters had obtained from the Tower of Heritage. These people have poured dirty water on the Dark Knight Alliance, which can make people angry to death. Although many divine tree masters can tell that some people are not members of the Dark Knight Alliance, the Dark Knight Alliance's previous reputation was too bad. Therefore, most sacred tree masters recognize that there are other people fishing in troubled waters, but they are also inseparable from the Dark Knight Alliance. Coupled with the addition of some super guilds who set the rhythm, all the voices were denounced by the Dark Knight Alliance. Dark Knight was so angry that he almost went to kill people with a knife. He obviously didn't do anything, but in the end, endless scapegoats came down from the sky. Enye's head was knocked unconscious, and he couldn't help but kill these bastards quickly. Of course, the Dark Knight Alliance is not a good bird. It has brewed a series of bad consequences. It can only be said that it has reaped the consequences. At this time, in front of Enye, a message popped up. Onel invites you to have a chat. Who is this guy? Enye frowned. The next second, a voice suddenly appeared from his ear. You can choose to accept it, but it doesn't matter if you choose yes or no. Enye was startled for a moment, stood up from where he was, and immediately scanned his surroundings with his mental strength. However, he found no trace of the visitor. The other party's mental power is higher than mine. Enye was secretly shocked. He didn't expect that there was such a master hidden in the Divine Tree game. Looking at the prompts that appeared in front of him, Enye hesitated, and then chose accept. He wanted to see who it was. Onel tisk tisk, the Dark Knight Alliance's recent reputation is really bad. Enye, what do you want to say? Onel don't you want to know what happened? Enye, they are just a bunch of bullies pouring dirty water on my Dark Knight Alliance's head. Do you still need to know what happened? Onel I have a piece of information about Shenjian Pavilion. You should know what is going on with that guild. Dark Knight's eyes were slightly cold. Of course he knew that Shenjian Pavilion, under the name of the Dark Knight Alliance, went out to do such banditry, and also pretended to be an upright family and upholding justice in the world. However, the members of the Divine Sword Pavilion were a mixed bag, and it was difficult for Enye to take action against them. Could it be that these hundreds of thousands of people were really massacred? Therefore, even if you want to think about it, you can't get out of it. I have the next whereabouts of the master of the Divine Sword Pavilion in my hands. They are about to launch a plan. If you are interested, you can exchange it for 5,000 divine iron ores. Onel made the request straight to the point. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Planting trees for all, 3 consecutive SSS-level talents at the beginning. Author, Immortal. Chapter 309. Wuqian Shen Iron Ore. Enye frowned slightly. This kind of ore is an extremely precious iron-making material. Even the famous swords on the rankings can be upgraded with divine iron ore. Although the Dark Knight Alliance is rich and powerful, but 5,000 divine iron ore cannot be taken out casually. A mere piece of information may not be worth 5,000 divine iron ores. Enye responded coldly. What if I tell you that this matter is related to the secret of the strategy for the Tower of Heritage? Enye was silent for a moment. Then, Enle roughly recounted the story of Xiaoyu sect and Shenjian Pavilion. Although the story was very simple, Enye could easily understand it. Enye sneered and said, this story is quite interesting. It's interesting, but how do you prove that you know the secret and that it's true? If this information is worth 5,000 divine iron ores, does that make me, Enye, too much of a fool? Onel did not respond, but directly sent a transaction invitation. Enye frowned slightly, and then chose agree. A famous sword appeared directly on the transaction panel. Shueji. That is Qin Feng's sword. Sword. As long as you know something about weapons, you will be familiar with the current list of famous swords of Shenshu Master. And Shueji is the 7th famous sword, so Enye will naturally not know such common sense information. Shueji. Enye's eyes were a little more solemn. You killed Qin Feng. I don't even bother to do the killing thing. Onel responded lazily, that's what your Dark Knight Alliance likes to do. I'm just a little interested in this sword, so I just took it over to play with. The appearance of Shueji in front of him and Enli's light tone completely made Enye pay more attention to this unknown visitor. Judging from everything shown in front of him, An LE should be a top-level sacred tree who doesn't care about Qin Feng at all. Master. To get Shueji, you don't even need to kill people to seize the treasure. You just get it easily. What does it mean? A character like Qin Feng cannot pose any threat to an LE at all. Just like a toy, there is no need to kill. As for Qin Feng's sacred tree, everyone knows that it is related to weapons. Since Anil does not kill Qin Feng, it means that she is not interested in weapons-related sacred trees. It is probably he has obtained the corresponding superpower fruit, or he is a divine tree master of this category. And yet is frantically searching in his mind for information that may be suitable for Anil. However, no matter how he searches, he can't find it. Get the corresponding content. Who is this person? There was a layer of doubt in my heart. However, Anya now has a little more trust in the intelligence of the person in front of her. If the other party dares to go deep into the base camp of the Dark Knight Alliance alone, then it means that his identity must be a top sacred tree master. The information exchanged by such a sacred tree master is usually relatively reliable. Okay, I agree to this deal with you. Anya agreed immediately. Not just to deal with the villains in the Divine Sword Pavilion. This deal would also be a good deal if he could make good friends with the top Divine Tree Master. However, Anil didn't have anything at all. The purpose of being friends with the Dark Knight Alliance is just to enjoy watching dogs bite dogs and fight with each other. By the way, I will transfer another wave of Shen iron ore to upgrade the Snow G. The two parties agreed to the deal. Dark Knight just wanted to ask to add a friend, who knew Anil would leave in an instant. Snored. Dark Knight gritted his teeth, and an inexplicable resentment arose in his heart. I don't know when, the Dark Knight Alliance went from being a guild that everyone feared in the God Tree game, to now it has become like a rat crossing the street, with everyone shouting and beating each other. Despise. This time, the beasts of Shenjian Pavilion are dead. There was anger in Dark Knight's eyes. Killing intent burst out. I can't swallow this breath. I have to find a punching bag. Shenjian Pavilion, which has repeatedly made Dark Knight Alliance take the blame, will naturally have to pay the price. Gather all the people and prepare to arrive at the entrance of the Tower of Heritage in 7 days. I want that idiot Qin Feng to know that there is a price to pay for angering the Dark Knight Alliance. Anya announced coldly. Grey World, the location at the edge of the Tower of Heritage. Enli's mind moved, and then, a sword that was born from the ice and snow appeared in her hand. Snowji. The sword lives up to its name. Just like a layer of snow condensed in the early morning of winter, the sword body is shimmering with colorful luster, which looks quite extraordinary. In terms of weapon level, Shueji even surpasses ordinary legendary weapons. Currently, Shueji ranks quite high in the Shenshu Master's weapon rankings. If you are a sword cultivator, your strength will at least double if you use this famous sword. If he understands the sword intention, or even the sword heart, Shueji's power can continue to skyrocket, and the increase in combat power will be greatly improved. Buzz. Shueji made a crisp sword cry. It seems that he is confused because of the change of sword master. This sword is actually psychic. A look of surprise appeared on Enli's face. Suddenly, the sword god template had a slight connection with Shueji. A majestic sword intent burst out from Enli's body in an instant, but within a few seconds, communicate with their spiritual oceans. It's Kenshin. Anil immediately understood what had happened to him, and was even more surprised my Shueji actually related to the sword god template, and then communicated with the spiritual ocean and condensed into the sword heart. The so-called sword heart means that the heart can move at will. It is closely related to mental strength. Whether a swordsman is strong depends not only on the sword in his hand being strong, but also on the sword in his heart, which must be sharp enough. A strong swordsman can infuse his eyes with sword intent, achieving the effect of killing people with open eyes. This is the power of the Jiangxin realm. What Anil didn't expect at all was that after she caught Xueji, the peak sword intention instantly evolved into Jiangxin. She also evolved from the first stage of Sword Mind Realm, upgraded to the second stage of Sword Mind Realm. Planting trees for all, 3 consecutive SSS-level talents at the beginning. Author, Immortal. Chapter 310. Sword Mind State. Anil closed her eyes and felt as if there was an extremely sharp divine sword in her heart. This sword is even several times more powerful than Xueji. Sword God Template. Worthy of the Sword God's sword heart. The moment Anil held Xueji, the ice-like sword suddenly began to tremble slightly, as if he felt a transcendent sword heart, symbolizing this unparalleled swordsman. Although Qin Feng is also a strong man in the realm of sword heart. But that sword heart is nothing compared to the sword heart of the sword god. Xueji suddenly stopped thinking about the sword master. At that moment, they all connected spiritually and communicated peace and happiness. Anil smiled slightly. She knew that Xueji couldn't wait to recognize her as his master. It's not that I'm too strong, it's that Lu Shu's fruit is too strong. The sword heart condensed from the sword god template can even defeat Qin Feng in the realm of man-sword integration. Of course, looking at the current sacred tree games, there are very few sacred tree masters who can combine man and sword into one. There may be such strong men, but they act in a low-key manner. Qin Feng's strength is not very good, but he relied on the creation of the divine sword pavilion to get the 7th most famous sword in the world, Xueji. It can only be said that the power of the guild is really extraordinary. The time for the Tower of Heritage is almost here. After checking the time, Anil discovered that there were only a few days left before entering the Tower of Heritage. She must seize the last bit of time and conquer the Tower of Heritage quickly, otherwise she will be late and miss this precious opportunity. As Anil walked towards the Tower of Heritage, he opened the chat box of the Divine Tree Master to check what happened recently. As expected, a lot of relevant information appeared in the chat box, and everything Anil wanted to know was written down on it. There have been so many big guys taking action recently. Anil was extremely surprised. World Public Screen. Muyu Pavilion finally took action. Muyu Tingfeng actually replaced Sakyamuni's first place on the list, and achieved a new first place on the list with 6.5 million points. Wow! As expected of the second boss on the list, he finally took action. I wonder if the tree puller will come. I guess not. The abyss of reincarnation is still far away from here. Moreover, Mr. Lushu has already solved even the super nightmare level dungeon, so he may not be interested in such a dungeon. That's really a pity. I still want to see the big guy Lushu continue to drag Muyu Tingfeng into trouble. Hearing these words, Muyu Tingfeng wanted to hit someone. It's all fun, right? After finally getting to the top of the rankings, why are you waiting for the tree taker to pull you down? However, Muyu Tingfeng was a little curious. Is it true that the Lushu people will not come to the Tower of Heritage this time? Or, should we wait until the end to take action? Muyu Tingfeng felt a little uneasy. After all, in her eyes, in the entire world of sacred trees, only tree lifters can pull her down from the top of the list. Muyu Tingfeng founded the first and largest guild of divine tree masters. From the beginning, he boasted extremely powerful talents and was proud of the stars. He looked like he was born in the mold of a protagonist. However, since his debut, he has not even reached the top of the rankings once, and has been killed by Lushu people from the gang many times. Muyu Tingfeng feels so miserable in his heart. If the tree taker doesn't come this time, although it's not on the Grey World ranking list, you can finally enjoy the fruit of the top spot. Except for Muyu Pavilion. Fenjiun Guild has become the new dark horse in this ranking. Currently, the Tower of Heritage ranking. First place, Muyu Tingfeng, 6.5 million points. Second place, Fenjiun, 6 million points. Third place, I am really not Long Aotian, 5.9 million points. 4th place, Yusuanji, 5.8 million points. The big guys keep taking action, and Shakya, who was ranked first on the list before, has already been ranked 10th. And Dark Knight, who has 2 million points, has been dragged down to an unknown place. Recently, a bunch of very good Divine Tree Masters who are suitable for killing mobs instantly have joined the Tower of Heritage. Also achieved quite good results. According to the information disclosed so far, the first 50 floors of the Tower of Heritage are generally C level to A+ level mobs, and there will be no monsters that are too powerful. The previous part tests the ability of the Sacred Tree Master to kill monsters. The monsters are relatively not that strong and will not pose the threat of Lord-level enemies. However, they are endless in number and can kill single sacred trees similar to Dark Knight. Teacher, it would be quite a disadvantage. After reaching the 50th floor, some S-level Lord-level monsters will appear one after another. The number will also increase from a few at the beginning, to dozens later, to the same number as the mobs, and then the levels will continue to accumulate. In short, the Sacred Tree Master who can reach the 50th level will not have less than 2 million points. Enya fell around the 50th floor. If he could be kept alive above the 50th floor, he might be able to get some more points, but with assassination type abilities, he would suffer a lot in the face of a group fight from monsters. This is also the supernatural characteristic of Dark Knight. No way. There was only one chance to enter. However, because of this, Enya was ridiculed by everyone. Is this the Dark Knight? Ha ha ha. I also asked if anyone had pulled him off the second list, but the boss didn't take action. That is, if you look at the rankings now, wow, I've been scrolling through it for a long time, but I still haven't seen Enya's name. Is this the president of the top Sacred Tree Master Guild? It's worse than just any ordinary member of Fenjiun Guild. Laughing to death. He also posted on the forum to ridicule that no one can knock him off the second list. I think it won't be long before this person's name will no longer be visible in the rankings. Just a clown. Looking at these comments, Enya is almost furious. This time, Shenjian Pavilion is dead. There's nothing you can do with these trash. It's impossible to kill all the people who spoke in the chat box. Enya was so sulky that he had to find a punching bag. This time, Enya suddenly felt that he could buy the 5,000 God Iron Mine. The situation in Shenjian Pavilion is quite good. At least, the desire to kill can be satisfied.